It's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, and yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on into the Full Court Press. Jason Walker with you here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan, streaming online at 1069thefan.com, the 1069 The Fan mobile app, and you can also find us on our podcast feed, 1069thefan.com is where you can find that, as well as pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. I'm all by myself for today's show, although, of course, we always have the Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321. But, of course, a lot to go over today, and I should say we'll probably hear from Eric Franson a little bit later. He's on his way to St. George, and we'll probably give him a call around about the start of the second hour just to get his thoughts both on Utah State basketball, which we're going to kind of start off with here in the first hour. We will get to football and previewing more of Utah State's matchup with Washington State, the one upcoming on Saturday. We'll preview that in the second hour, and we'll also hear Eric's thoughts on that. As another programming note, we will have a slightly shortened show. By slightly, I mean that we'll cut out at about 5:47, so we'll basically lose the last segment and a half as the Utah Jazz will be playing today. They've traveled to Milwaukee, and they'll be taking on the Bucks this evening. 6 o'clock tip time for that game. We'll get into that as well. Some potentially positive injury news. Lauri Markkanen, Isaiah Collier may both be back. So could be a little bit funner. We'll definitely see how that goes. So, and of course, Utah State soccer. I almost forgot to mention them. We will be getting into that. We'll hear a little bit from Manny Martins, his thoughts after the Aggies defeated Colorado State in the Mountain West Tournament semifinal, advancing to the championship game of the conference tournament for the second year in a row, and defeating Colorado State in the conference tournament for a second season in a row. Let's get into talking about Utah State men's basketball, their dominant win yesterday. And if you have any thoughts on that, if you had a chance to watch the game or at least saw the final score and saw the dominance that Utah State laid out there with defeating Alcorn State 101-46. And yeah, that was a pretty absurdly dominant game for the Aggies. It's the 9th largest margin of victory in school history. And so far as I can tell, the tied for the largest margin of victory against a Division I opponent in school history. Now, Alcorn State isn't a particularly good opponent, just to put it bluntly. Alcorn State, according to Ken Palm, is, I believe, 349th. And they lost to the University of Utah earlier this week. They were on Monday. They faced the Utes, and the Utes beat them 100-59. So this is a team that's going to lose a lot of games this season. They're not a particularly great team. They haven't been a particularly great team in their recent history. So the fact that the Aggies won isn't really that surprising. The fact that they won big isn't really that surprising. But what I will say is surprising, and this ties back to something that I was talking about yesterday, kind of previewing this game and kind of, pumping the brakes a little bit on hype about, what may happen in this game and not to read too much into this game. But even having pumped the brakes a little bit prematurely in my preview of this game, I was still impressed. Trying to qualify this by saying, oh, it's a bad team. Like, the Aggies just played absolutely dominantly. There's not an aspect of this game that I feel like there is any real criticism of the Aggies. They had 28 assists, only 9 turnovers. They shot north of 50% from the field. They shot 38% from 3. They out-rebounded their opponent, nearly doubled them up in out-rebounding him, 52-27. They forced 20 turnovers. They only committed 14 fouls. I don't think there was anybody in foul trouble. Part of that may have been, the fact that nobody played more than 23 minutes. But yeah, Braden Housley, you had 3 fouls. Like, that was the worst you got. Nobody was committing too many fouls. Alcorn State only attempted 11 free throws, telling you how little the Aggies fouled. The Aggies got out in transition. They scored 29 points off turnovers, 29 points off of fast breaks as well. A lot of overlap between those two stats. They had 40 bench points, 50 points in the paint. And, I guess the closest you can get to nitpicking is they were 13 of 27 on layups, which is slightly below 50%. But you look at their field goal percentage at the rim, they were 23 of 37. They had 10 dunks. They got to the rim and they finished well. And they shot, they had a pretty slow start on 3-point shooting from outside, but once they got over that slow start, they played really well. They made 3-pointers. And so you go over this, like, you look on defense, you hold a team to 46 points. That's typically any team's season low if you can hold a team to 46 points. They scored 101. Their offensive rating was 142.3. Like, in an NBA context, that's like scoring 160 points. And as far as, like, if an NBA team has an offensive rating of like 140, they're scoring somewhere between 140 and 160 points, because typically they'll have around 100 to 115 possessions. So 1.4 points per possession for 110 possessions. Yeah, you're going to score 150, 160 points. The Aggies only had 71 possessions, 71 chances to score, and they get 101 points. The Aggies were incredibly efficient on offense. They were absolutely suffocating on defense. And it was a performance so good that normally you come out of these games and you hear the head coach talk about the game. Usually there's obviously some praise, but they're often reserved, pointing out, some of the mistakes they may have made. But Coach Calhoun didn't really hold back a whole lot as far as giving his team praise. And he didn't really have all that many criticisms. Here's just the kind of his opening statement. I won't play too much. If you went back and listened to the post-game show, the KVNU Aggie call, I think you'll be able to hear more of these comments. But Coach Calhoun, very praiseworthy of his team after the game.
I thought it was a great team effort. I really credit our guys' attention to detail. I thought they were really, really locked in. We always talk about with our teams, you have to earn the right to win, right? Everybody wants to win. It's easy to want to win, but you got to pay the price, right? And you got to do that in practice. And I thought, we had a scrimmage, didn't play too well, and I thought that was the best thing that happened to us. It brought us together. 28 assists. That's a very, very unselfish team. But I've been saying it since I got here. I think we have elite assistant coaches. I got to credit Coach Howard and Coach Robinson. Those guys were really, really on top of it. In our defense, for a stretch there, I've been doing this 13 years. I worked for a Hall of Fame coach in Bob Huggins. I think, maybe the best defensive coach of all time at college, and that was as good as I've seen. There was a 10-minute stretch there they couldn't score. So the attention to detail all week long was really, really good.
Yeah, so not a whole lot negative to say from Coach Calhoun, and praising a lot of members of the team, from basically anybody we asked about. Obviously had great things to say, because basically everyone had a fantastic game. Obviously the headliner, Abin Gadarazzi. I need to double check on exactly how to pronounce his last name. But he goes 11 of 11 from the field. Perfect. The second most made field goals in a game without a miss. The only person who did better was Mike Santos. In a 1978 game, he went 12 of 12. So Gadarazzi goes, he scores 24 points. He had a pair of free throws. All 11 of his shots were at the rim, which is, where he's going to get a lot of his points. And I wouldn't read too much into the 24 point total, but like the thing I took away from Abin's performance on an individual level is he is pretty much exactly what I've been hyping him up as far as his finishing ability. Like, dude finished every kind of shot: put back dunk, alley-oop dunk, like just everything you can do, left hand, right hand, two hand, just everything around the rim. He was finishing, and he was finishing with fantastic touch. I think it was either his first or maybe second basket. I'm pretty sure it was his first basket, where he catches the ball, kind of a high pass. Defense had some chance to recover, and yet three guys converge on him. And he pump fakes the first, and then he goes up, and two other guys are going with him. And he's taller than both of them, but they catch some air, and he has to finish around all these flailing arms. Was probably even slightly fouled on the play, but not super obvious, and the refs didn't end up calling it. But he still finishes around all of these, 3, 4, 5 arms. Felt like they were flailing around him. And, he is next to the basket, but it's hard to finish through traffic like that. And it's hard to finish with great touch, being harassed by 3 different players. But he did. And, he had another, it was an alley-oop look where Mason Falstaff threw kind of a bullet lob, which are really hard to get a hold on to begin with, and then redirect toward the basket. But he catches it left-handed. I can't remember if Aubin's left-handed or not. But, he caught it left-handed, and then he just went straight up with it. Caught it, laid it off the backboard and in. And it's just the lob threat that he's going to be in the finishing, because it's surprisingly tricky to find bigs who have great touch around the rim. Because most 7-footers can grab it and they can dunk it. But how many can finish a variety of different shots around the rim with touch? That is something that's actually really tricky to find. But the Aggies are lucky because they have like 2 of them. They have Isaac Johnson and Abin Gadarazzi, who are both good at finishing around the rim, who both have touch. Isaac Johnson especially has that great touch in that mid-range game that is incredibly rare for basically, 7-footers to have. So as far as the individual performance, I know a lot of people they're probably overhyping Gadarazzi's performance. I wouldn't want to put too much on him. Don't be expecting him to be scoring 18 to 20 points per game. Don't be comparing him to Neemias Queta. But be very excited about the skill that he's going to bring to this team, where it seems they're trying their best to make sure he's a physical player inside, on defense, and then taking full advantage of his elite finishing on offense. And that's something to definitely be excited about. Let's go to the text line real quick before getting to some of my other points about this game, starting with 9315. Saying the game last night showing USU on track for another NCAA large bid winning team again this year. We have a chance to win the conference again. The basketball team really gelled together. Greatest new hire coach has some really amazing defensive philosophy that are going to be hard for teams to understand preparing for play against USU. Go Aggies. Yeah, I know that's certainly been the prevailing reaction, I think. And that's not an unfair reaction. Because as much as you want to say, oh, it was against Alcorn State. Okay, but how many teams actually beat somebody by 55 points? And, there's that 34-0 run. I haven't even mentioned that yet. The Aggies went on a 34-0 run. They were actually losing 10-8 5 minutes into the game, or like 4.5 minutes into the game. Actually, no, it was pretty much, because it was like 5 minutes, 6-ish seconds. So almost, it was about 5 minutes into the game. And they were losing. And from 10-8, they made it to, what's 8 plus 42-10? I think that's the number. It was a 34-0 run. I did the math on that. And according to Utah State Athletics, it was the longest run without allowing an opponent to score since 37-0 against Idaho back in 2006 during the Stu Morrill era. So you don't have a dominant run like that. You don't just absolutely bully a team, a Division I team, into complete submission like that, unless you are at least minimum a pretty good team, like a 20-win team. And as far as saying Utah State's definitely going to the tournament and they're going to win, multiple games or a Sweet 16, that's the kind of take that maybe pump the brakes slightly, but I do mean slightly. Because again, this is a good team. And when you say this team has a chance to win the conference again, after watching them against Weber State and now against Alcorn State, it's like, yeah, they do. They definitely have a great chance because they have a defense that can be smothering, and they have an offense that can get out and run and be incredibly dangerous. And if you have those two things, it's hard not to be a good team. It's hard not to be a conference contender. Let's get to a couple more texts. 2444. So I've seen enough. This Aggie team is going to the NCAA tournament. Already can't wait for Saturday. And also following up saying that was in reference to the men's basketball team, but I suppose it also applies to soccer. Great time to be an Aggie. Yeah, that's definitely true for both teams. And as mentioned, we'll get to Utah State soccer here not too long from now. As Manny Martins has his team on the cusp of another NCAA tournament bid. They're one game away from officially punching their ticket, although they are anticipating making the tournament. They've already made plans for a watch party for the NCAA tournament. They expect to receive at minimum an at-large bid, if not punching their ticket through a victory on Saturday. But yeah, as far as the men's basketball team, yeah, it's a team that, having seen it now a couple of times, this is a team that should be in the conversation for an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. There is no reason they shouldn't be able to do that. Things would have to go wrong at this point. You'd have to see players just, start playing much poorer than they have so far. Because you have a team that they're not a perfect team. I think they're still going to have weaknesses. I still have concerns over their size, but I'll get to that in the next segment here, where I don't have as many concerns over maybe the lack of size, so to speak. Having bulky players, guys with a little bit of weight to throw around. I'm not as worried as I was before. Mainly having seen the emphasis Coach Calhoun is putting on being physical. Let's get to a couple more texts before we hit a break. 9938 saying it's going to be difficult to find minutes for everyone on the basketball team. And yeah, I do want to get to this because it's, the depth of this team does seem real. Coach Calhoun does seem committed to playing more players than we're used to, where we've seen teams with 7 or 8, man rotations. The Aggies are not going to be a team with a 7 or 8 man rotation. Maybe in the tightest of tight games, they might narrow it down to like 8, where you kind of have to lean on your starters a little bit more. But I think for the bulk of this season, they are going to be relying on a 10, sometimes 11, and you'll see a decent number of games with 12 guys in there. One final text here before going to break. 0366, they enjoy Coach Calhoun while we have him. If this keeps up, bye-bye, he gone. Yeah, we've already reached that moment. The defeatism. Coach Calhoun gonna be gone after he's already beat the trend where it was we had a coach for 3 years, 2 years, then 1 year. He's he's here for this first year, so he's going to get to that one. But we'll see how long he sticks around. But obviously, you can't be focusing on that. I know it's something that Aggie fans always have in the back of their mind. They're always going to lose their star player and their great coach. But let's focus on the future, the good part of the future. Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll get to kind of my biggest takeaways. I wrote down 3 kind of key takeaways. I think most of them have already been touched on, or at least a couple have been touched on by the text line, so I'll get to those in a little bit more detail. But we'll have my biggest takeaways from Utah State's 101-46 shellacking of Alcorn State. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Holiday parties and events at the Riverwoods Conference Center offer a festive and fun holiday atmosphere. Paired with catering from Elements Restaurant, your special occasion can include tasty hors d'oeuvres, delicious entrees, and decadent desserts that always deliver excellence. Now accepting reservations for this holiday season. The Riverwoods Conference Center and Elements Restaurant easily accommodate large or small events. Visit theriverwoods.com or call 750-5151.
This is Catherine Buse with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account. If you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
It's a Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with you by myself for the time being. We'll have Eric Franson on a little bit later. I'll try and get a hold of him. I text him to let him know, but he's driving right now. So he may or may not be listening. Hi, Eric, if you're listening. Thank you to those of you, many of our loyal listeners. If you guys want to join the show, any thoughts on any of the topics of today, Utah State men's basketball, Utah State soccer, as they advance the Mountain West tournament title game, or later on Utah State football, as we'll preview their matchup with 20th ranked Washington State or the Utah Jazz as they get set to take on the Milwaukee Bucks. That game will actually shorten our show slightly when we'll get off the air a little bit earlier at about 5:50, and then we'll hand it over to the Utah Jazz broadcast crew, David Locke, play-by-play voice, and so you'll be able to hear that on this station. But getting to Utah State basketball instead of the Utah Jazz, we'll talk about teams that are expected to be good this season. And I lied when I said I only had 3 takeaways. I was looking down at my notes and I saw 3 and I forgot that I had 4. Now we're actually going to start with that 4th one that I wrote down. That had to do with depth. And 9938 touched on this with their text. And the thing that Coach Calhoun mentioned after the game, in this one, they played 13 players. They have 14 guys on their roster. They played 13 of them. He did confirm after the game that Pavle Stosic is going to redshirt. I can't remember if that had been noted anywhere else. I ended up posting on social media, but Stosic will redshirt. It'll give me a chance to, practice saying his name properly. But the power forward, the transfer from Gonzaga just didn't seem to, probably couldn't quite crack the rotation. And so he's gonna redshirt and hopefully come back next year. He's been dealing with some minor injury issues as well. So hopefully he'll get a chance to develop and really get a chance to work his way into the rotation next year. Although the Aggies are still going to have guys like Isaac Johnson, Carson Templin, and Isaac Davis on the roster next year as well, or at least you would project them to, as long as they don't transfer. But not all 13 guys that got to play are going to play every night, but you're going to see at least 10 of them. And for me, the two guys that I would expect to see, you'll see them on the court, but you'll see them inconsistently. You said inconsistently. I have to enunciate that. And that's Isaac Davis and Braden Housley. I expected Housley to be on the fringe of the rotation, but it was mainly because I didn't see the Aggies going beyond playing the, having Drake Allen and Dayton Albright. I expected those two to take up about, 95% of point guard minutes. And that'll probably be true in a lot of games where it's a little closer. But I thought Housley would take up any, if games aren't as close or they're not, not as tight games, I'd expect him to play 10 to 15 minutes. But turns out Jordy Barnes has taken that spot. And I thought it would be Jordy Barnes who would be on the fringe of being a redshirt. Potentially redshirt just to be like, hey, let's not waste a year playing you in 15 games for 5 minutes in each game. But it turns out Jordy Barnes has basically taken the spot I thought Braden Housley was going to take. And so Jordy Barnes, he did play 15 minutes against Alcorn State. I would expect his season average to be somewhere around 10, maybe a little under 10, because there's going to be some games where he doesn't play. I think because they may lean more on their primary guards with Albury and Allen. But Jordy Barnes is going to get some playing time. And I think he's going to wow a lot of people. People saw his passing for the first time. I'd gone back and watched his film. But so I wasn't surprised when I saw a few of the passes that he broke out. But I think a lot of people are really going to like what they see from his passing ability. Looking at the rest of the rotation, so you'll have I should mention Jackson Smith. He's going to be your get into the end of the game. Like he didn't get in the Alcorn State game until the very end. Although once he got in, he immediately showed his shooting capabilities, where he just drilled a three right in a man's face. So you'll have Isaac Davis, Jackson Smith, and Braden Housley. Those are the guys that are on the fringe of your rotation. Maybe they get in games that aren't as close, or in games where, I say games that aren't as close, but there are times where you can see when a team is playing a lower ranked opponent, that they don't wait until like the end of the game to put in back of the end rotation players. Like they'll put in their fringe rotation players, like Javon Jackson in games where he got in, or Carson Templin. It's not like they would wait until the end of the second half to play them. They would rotate them in early in the game. Like it was a deliberate focus. So that's the kind of thing you'll see. Like you can kind of tell that there'll be some games where they're playing a lower ranked opponent, and you'll see Isaac Davis and Braden Housley jump in the game early on, just to, try and make sure that everyone stays well rested. So that's what I mean with these guys will get some playing time. It's not like they'll all be human victory cigars that only get in when there's extra playing time at the end. You'll see them in the actual rotation in some games, but just not all of them. So that leaves you with a 10-man rotation. I think you're going to see these 10 players in pretty much every single game where all of them are healthy, with few exceptions. And that's where you got your starting lineup with Drake Allen, Ian Martinez, Mason Falslev, Isaac Johnson, Abin Gadarazzi. That's going to be your starting five. I don't really see that changing. Unless maybe they're playing a super small team, but like Alcorn State was a fairly small team and they still went with a supersized lineup. And I think the main part of that is that their matchup zone kind of eliminates that weakness of, hey, we don't have a power forward who can defend opposing like 6'6", small ball fours. Well, Isaac Johnson doesn't have to defend in the same way. They're playing more of his own. He isn't as out of his element. And the defense is built to make up for that mistake. And so I don't think you're going to see that same thing where Danny Sprinkle would sub Isaac Johnson out of the game and put in Josh Aduje into the starting lineup because they were playing a team that was starting, teams like Air Force or, there's one other team they did it against. Was it Fresno State they did it against? There's another Mountain West team they did that against where they put in Josh Aduje in the starting lineup because they didn't feel like Isaac Johnson could play the power forward spot effectively. I don't think you're really going to see that same adjustment because of the way Jared Calhoun's defense works. So, and then so the bench, you have that starting five. The bench, it'll be Dayton Albury, Jordy Barnes, Dexter Acano, Tucker Anderson, and Carson Templin. And I think you're going to see decently often this team do what they did against Alcorn State. Maybe not always, but like I said, decently often, where they have their starting five and then they bring in 4 subs. You want to know who the sixth man on this team is? I have no clue because they subbed in 4 guys. They had 4 sixth men. They just basically did an almost full unit swap. Ian Martinez is the only player who stayed on. And then eventually Jordy Barnes comes in. I can't remember if he came in for Ian Martinez or not. But you're going to see basically your first unit is Drake Allen, Ian Martinez, Mason Falsev, Isaac Johnson, Abin Gadarazzi. Your second unit is Dayton Albury, Ian Martinez, Dexter Acano, Tucker Anderson, and Carson Templin. And then Jordy Barnes fills in either for Albury or Martinez. Just they kind of rotate. They have several different looks that they go to with that guard rotation. So those are the 10 players that you're going to see night in and night out. It's going to be a regular thing, those 10 players, which is more depth than you tend to see out of a lot of teams. And I think just as important, because everyone can play 10 players, but it's more of a should you play 10 players. And I think the Aggies are in that position where I think they should. Where I think their second unit has strengths, has the ability to score, has the ability to defend, has the ability to rebound. And so it's not like you're sending out a second unit to survive and to just spell the starters. They can go out there and make noise themselves. And that's the mark of a truly deep team. Everybody has bodies to throw out there and to rack up minutes. But who has depth that can actually make an impact on the game? You're not just a fill-in. You're not just a warm body to make up for when your star player has to go to the bench and get a drink of water. Can that bench player go out there and stop the opposing team's, better players? If they get stuck out there guarding the other team's stars or the other teams, can this bench unit also go out there and score some points? If your starters build a lead, can they maintain and even build on that lead? And the early indications are that the Aggies' second unit has certainly some great capabilities of doing that. Like Dayton Albury, my goodness, that guy's a menace. His defense, his offense, he is an incredibly underrated player. And honestly, I'd have to look around the league, but the Mountain West, but I don't know if there's going to be a better sixth man. I know he may not be the quote-unquote sixth man because they might send in 4 players of the first sub every game. But Dayton Albury is a guy who's going to go out there and he's going to make some noise on offense and defense. And he's going to make plays. And I think Aggie fans are going to really love Dayton Albury. Because he is going to be that electric spark off the bench. Again, on both sides of the ball. I keep having to mention that because he's going to throw down some dunks. He is going to sprint by guys in transition and finish with layups. And he is not afraid of contact at the rim. He'll run right into you. But yeah, he's definitely going to be a fan favorite there. 8968. A couple of texts. Saying, I will say that this was one of the most dominating games I've ever seen from an Aggie team. I don't know how many minutes Gadarazzi played, but I saw the Santos game when he went 12 for 12. He played most of the game, and that was a very good Aggie team. They had the likes of Dean Hunger and Brian Jackson on it. He said, what I liked is the Aggies beat Alcorn worse than the Utes did. Yeah, they did. Let's see, what was so it was plus 55 for the Aggies and 41. So they beat them by 13 more points. 14 more points. So yeah, definitely better than Craig Smith's Utes down there. Of course, the Aggies and Utes similar in KenPom. The Aggies are 63, Utes are 69. So, and yeah, to make note of how many minutes Gadarazzi played, he played 21. He played 21 minutes, scored 24 points, and was a plus 30. There was only one player who had a better plus minus as far as the Aggies outscoring Alcorn State when they were on the floor. That was Drake Allen, who was plus 31. Drake Allen only played 17 minutes. Allen getting a bit of the all-around award where he had the 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Most of that in the first half, because I think his first half numbers was like 4 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. I don't know if he played hardly at all in the second half. But yeah, Tucker Anderson got some points largely through volume. He had 12 points on 4 of 12 shooting. I went 2 of 9 from 3. Still kind of shaking off whatever rust he's got. He's just, something's not translating to in the games where he's shown that he can be a high-level 3-point shooter, and for some reason he's just not been. He has all the confidence in the world, and he has that rise and fire and that kind of same confidence that Isaac Johnson has, which is like, I'm tall enough that nobody can really challenge my 3-point shot, so I'm just going to shoot it. And Isaac Johnson did a little bit better where he went 3 of 5, Tucker Anderson 2 of 9, as I said. But the stat leaders, Gadarazzi at 24 points. Isaac Johnson led the team in rebounds where he had 7 rebounds. And then Mason Falslev, he had only 6 points, but he had 4 rebounds and 6 assists. And Jordy Barnes, he didn't score. He went 0 of 3, but he also had 6 assists, tying for the team lead in assists in his freshman debut with the Aggies. So, and I think there were 3 players who made their collegiate debut last night. It was Jackson Smith, Jordy Barnes, and Isaac Davis. Obviously, there were plenty that made their Aggie debut. Drake Allen, Gadarazzi, Braden Housley, Tucker Anderson, Jackson Smith, Jordy Barnes, Dexter Cano, Dayton Albury, Isaac Davis, like however many that was. A lot of people made their Aggie debut, but 3 players made their overall collegiate debut. Jordy Barnes and Isaac Davis as true freshmen, and Jackson Smith as a redshirt freshman. So, yeah, just again, an absolutely dominant performance from the Aggies. Like, I could go on, and I was rewatching some of the game yesterday, and there were aspects that were even more impressive to me watching them a second time. I'd only made it through about the first 6 or so minutes of the game before I had to focus on a couple of other things. But, Ian Martinez's block in the first couple of minutes where he blocked a fast break dunk. It's like I've seen him do it before, but it was somehow more impressive this time, given how little time he had to actually, like, it just displayed his athleticism to be able to go from a not ideal position to, jump his highest, but he still manages to just springboard up there and block a shot. So, I didn't even get to all my other takeaways. I got so caught up on the depth. Let's just, let's hit these real quick, because I then want to move on to Utah State soccer on this next segment, get a chance to talk about their win. So my first takeaway was, the Aggies are going to play 10 players. That's not the most shocking takeaway because Jared Calhoun said it. Those words came out of his own mouth. They're going to play 10 guys consistently this season. The other is that, Jared Calhoun is serious about this team playing physical and not having that be a weakness. I've spent like the entire offseason, or at least the last month or so, every time we talk about the Aggies saying, oh, they don't have enough weight. They don't have enough size. They have length, but not the size with the weight and all that. And if you run up against a team that has that size and physicality, that can be a problem. Well, Jared Calhoun, he's known about that because I asked him about it and he addressed that in the offseason, in the summer. And it's something they've been putting a lot of work into. And watching Alcorn State, the Aggies are going to be physical and they're going to be tough. Now, maybe they don't have the raw measurables, but there aren't going to be too many teams that truly do have the measurables. So they're going to go out there and they're going to throw what weight they have around, and they're not going to get bullied. You have to be a truly special and physical big player to really bully this Aggie team around. And it may happen, but they're going to do their best to make sure it doesn't happen. And so my I wouldn't say my concerns are completely alleviated because I got to see this when it's not Alcorn State. I want to see it when it is a team that has the measurables, so to speak. Like what happens when the Aggies face a big team they don't have a size advantage over. I want to see that, but this game alleviated some of that concern I have over the team's potential to play physical. We know they're going to play physical this season. They're going to be great in transition. The Aggies are going to be great. They had, I think, 28 of their possessions, according to Synergy Sports, were transition offensive possessions. And that ranked in I know it's early on, but among all teams in their first game, many of the Aggies' peers were playing lower ranked teams. The Aggies are the 93rd percentile in number of transition possessions they had. The Aggies are going to get out and run, and they're going to be great in transition. Mentioned guys like Dayton Albury. He's going to be fantastic in transition. Ian Martinez, Mason Falslev. There are so many spectacular guys in transition. They have playmakers in transition with Drake Allen, Jordy Barnes. And the three guys they mentioned to start with, Albury, Martinez, and Falslev. They're finishers in transition. If you got bigs, if they run the court, Isaac Johnson, Gadarazzi, Carson Templin, they'll all finish in transition as well as bigs. So really excited to see this team get out and run and be very efficient in the transition. And then the third one, and this kind of went back to something I mentioned yesterday where I talked about the team making, creating easy shots for themselves, but also forcing teams into more difficult shots. And that is something I saw all over the place from Alcorn State. That 34-0 run that the Aggies went on. Normally when I've seen 18-0 runs and 17-0 and even some into the low 20s. When I see those runs, typically it's a team that gets cold and then they just miss shots that they normally make. You miss a layup here. You miss a wide open three there. Like looking back on it, maybe I'll have to rewatch just to make sure, but I didn't really recall Alcorn State missing this open shot that they definitely should have made. They just kept either turning it over or taking bad shots, long contested three-pointers, mid-range shots, difficult floaters in the paint. Reading the scouting report and letting guys who aren't really capable of making those shots, let them take them, force them in there, contest it as much as you can without fouling, but let guys take bad shots. And the Aggies did. And so Alcorn State, they're not always going to be like, miss 15 straight shots bad. Like that's literally, they missed 15 straight shots. They're not going to be that bad normally because normally one of those bad shots goes in or a couple of them. But when you consistently force teams into bad shots, that is great defense. And I think with this, matchup zone, teams are going to have a hard time generating easy looks at the basket or wide open threes. They're going to be forced into contested shots. And I think that's going to make this Aggie defense really good. And so the key there is, continue forcing teams into bad shots and then rebound. They do those two things, they're going to be the best defense in the conference. So those are my biggest takeaways from this game. A lot more to learn on Saturday as they take on a much more difficult opponent in Charlotte, a team that's ranked nearly in the top 100 in KenPom as opposed to a team that is now in like the bottom 20 in KenPom. But let's transition over to Utah State soccer coming up next. They had a big 2-0 win over Colorado State in the Mountain West Tournament semifinal. We'll talk about that and also hear from Manny Martins, who spoke after the game, his thoughts on the Aggies advancing. We'll have that next on the Full Court Press.
It's that first kiss, that moment in time.
This is Jarek from Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Everyone knows us as an engagement ring store, but not everyone knows about everything else we do. Custom design, our in-house laser jewelry repair. We offer fashion jewelry, charm bracelets, necklaces, earrings, birthstone jewelry, watches. We love people to just look and make a wish list. Stop in and say hi.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Join Adams Wealth Advisors on November 14th at 12:30 for a Market Outlook event, diving into the recent election results and their impact on the economy. Understanding and being prepared for what may happen due to political changes is a critical part of your financial plan. Discover how these political changes could shape financial markets as we head into 2025. Register now by calling 752-1702. 752-1702. November 14th, 12:30. Don't miss this opportunity to stay informed with Adams Wealth Advisors.
Clean it up and get it out before the snow flies. Don't wait another winter. Let DD Auto and Salvage pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
It's a Full Court Press. Jason Walker with you here. Talk to Utah State men's basketball. They got a dominant win. Well, Utah State soccer, they lit the A up a little bit earlier. They preempted the men's team by defeating Colorado State 2-0 down in San Diego. They got the win. It's the Mountain West tournament for soccer. And the Aggies trying to defend their conference tournament title. They defeated the Rams in the championship game of last year's tournament. And this year they're going to face, actually they're going to face the exact same two teams they faced in last year. I just realized that in reverse order, but it's the same two teams. They faced Boise State in the semifinal last year, Colorado State in the title game. The Aggies faced the Rams in the semifinal. They're going to face the Broncos in the championship game. The Broncos getting a 3-2 win over San Diego State, who San Diego State, it's the same four teams as last year's semifinal. I'm making all these connections here in the last second because, yeah, last year's semifinal was Utah State, Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State. Although in this case, the number one seed did make it to the championship game. The Aztecs were the number one seed last year, and they lost to the Rams. It was an upset. But the Aggies ended up getting the, I believe it was a 1-0 win over the Rams last year. They got it 2-0. And to be honest, 2-0 doesn't really tell the story of how dominant the Aggies were in this game. Because, I don't know, imagine a game where you win, to convert it to basketball terms, it's like if the Aggies beat a team 70-38. It's like, are you wowed by the offense? But maybe not, but the control and the defense, that's kind of what the Aggies did in this game. Where Colorado State had one shot on goal the entire game. And I actually was looking away from the screen at the moment, so I actually didn't see that shot. I watched about 72% of the game, roughly, either during yesterday's show or in the lead up to the men's game. There's a few minutes I wasn't quite able to watch, but so I don't even think it was that tricky of a shot. It came off of a free kick, and it just said it was saved by Cora Brendel in the middle of goal. Which usually, if it's in the middle of goal, it means it was a pretty easy save. Maybe I should have gone back to double check exactly what it looked like. But in the end, that was Colorado State's pretty much best chance as far as times they actually got a shot off. Because they had one shot on goal. They technically had two shots. Their first shot on goal came in the 17th minute, and then I think their next shot, after getting one in the 17th minute, was in the 80-something minute. It was the last 10 minutes of the game. They got a shot. It wasn't even on goal. It was just a shot. The Aggies, on the other hand, had 21 shots, 11 of them on goal. And they end up getting the two goals. It took them a minute to get that off, that, the scoring opportunities really rolling, though, because for a while there, Colorado State's one shot was actually more than the Aggies. The Aggies' first shot, I think, coming late in the first half hour of the game. So it took them a minute to get an opportunity. But eventually they did. The first goal of the game coming in the 40th minute. Ellie Hendricks with, if you haven't seen the video, you got to go watch it, where she completes a couple of dribbles deep inside the box, which is really difficult to do with defenders swarming you. You know, gotta fake to one side, dribble to the other, and then put a absolute postage stamp on the goal, just sneaking it just inside the near post. Goalkeeper had no chance. So a fantastic goal from Ellie Hendricks, one of the members of the all-newcomer team and a freshman for the Aggies. And then the Aggies got the insurance goal, 83rd minute, Kate Christian off the assist from Ellie Hendricks. So certainly a good game for her, a goal and an assist. And so just fantastic stuff from the Aggies. We do need to take one more break. We'll wrap the first hour up. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. If you're looking for Medicare coverage that truly works for you, now's the time to act. The Medicare annual enrollment period is here, and it's your chance to compare all your options. Whether you're considering a supplement, Medicare Advantage, or Part D prescription drug plan, call 752-9493 and let us personally walk you through your choices. No cost, no pressure. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493. LSS Insurance, your local health insurance specialist.
Football is a game of tradition. Aggie fans love the game and prepare for game day at Locker 42 with popular items like Travis Matthews or Cutter and Bucked Aggie logoed polos, Nike women's pullover hoodies, Aggie plush blankets, and Aggie seat cushions. Locker 42's wall of hats is impressive, and they have nearly 50 different beanie styles. Style, comfort, selection. Locker 42 is a store for Aggie fans by Aggie fans.
If you're thinking about getting engaged this holiday season, S.E. Needham Jewelers is the place to shop for your diamond engagement ring. S.E. Needham's has the largest selection of wedding rings in the area, including hundreds of styles in platinum, white gold, and yellow gold. We import diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium, which enables us to guarantee the best price on diamonds. We also offer the most complete warranty and services of any store in the state. Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
It's a Full Court Press. Jason Walker. By my lonesome here. All by myself, as they say. I'm going to try and touch base with Eric Franson, though, start of the next hour or so, very shortly here. Just wrapping things up on this opening hour, where we recapped Utah State men's basketball dominant victory, 101-46 over Alcorn State. Just really flexing their muscles. The Aggies rise to 63rd in KenPom. Where I think, if you look at the Mountain West, they're now considered the third best team, because I think Nevada and Colorado State were ahead of them. I suddenly can't remember where the Aggies were before. Let me see if they have a previous ranking summary. I think they had them at 71, I want to say, and so that was probably slightly behind. New Mexico is at 71. In KenPom, Colorado State 67, Nevada 66. A lot of teams kind of jumbled in that. You look at 57 to 71. You've got 5 teams in that range, from San Diego State at 57 to New Mexico at 71. Boise State, pretty highly regarded at 32. They were 47th in KenPom. They got a dominant win themselves. 87-43, just absolutely ripping into Oakland. A better opponent than the Aggies faced. At least according to the ranking, they're 204. Oakland is, and Alcorn State 349, and similar defensive output for the Broncos against Oakland. So there's going to be some good teams. I don't know if it's going to be the same, like 5 teams in the top 30, but who knows? Maybe it's just another example of everyone shortchanging Mountain West teams. And then eventually they make their way up because they all prove that, these are all really great, really great teams. 9-3-1-5 saying, you do realize that you're not all by yourself. You have all of us wonderful listeners using the text line. Yes, I do. And that is a good reminder. I've got the listeners on the text line helping me out here, driving the conversation. 435-339-0321. That's the number you can text to join the show. That's going to do it for us in the first hour. We'll talk Utah State football coming up in the next hour here on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. A fast-paced, run-and-gun style of offense drives today's NBA. But if we've learned anything from the small sample size of this season, it's that defense still matters. Look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and Golden State Warriors. No doubt the two teams can put up points. Both teams are 7-1, but it's thanks to their defense. The Thunder are allowing just over 90 points per 100 possessions during their hot start. Golden State ranks second in that same category. That competitive defensive mindset isn't an accident. Oklahoma City and Golden State have collected a plethora of wing players who make getting to the basket a real challenge. Not to mention, you have to get into the paint. You're greeted by two of the better defensive players in Draymond Green and Chet Holmgren. The two teams' dominating defensive run will undoubtedly slow as the season continues, but with teams continuing to push the basketball and jack up threes, it's nice to see teams being well-rounded. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.
Hey, are you a whiskey lover? If so, you have to try the new Keeper's Heart whiskey. Keeper's Heart is one of the first to blend Irish and American whiskey. And it's really good. So good, in fact, Keeper's Heart has been recognized as one of the world's best whiskeys for the way it brings together the boldness of American whiskey with the smoothness of Irish whiskey. It's the perfect matchup. Keeper's Heart is a legend in the making. Trust us, you've got to try it. Drink responsibly.
What's your favorite part of football Sunday? The weekend's biggest game? Tailgating? Maybe watch parties with family and friends? Of course not. Football Sundays are all about the food, and nothing better than a King's Hawaiian Sliders Sundae. Whether it's the original Hawaiian sweet rolls, slider buns, or pretzel slider buns. Soft, fluffy, irresistible. King's Hawaiian, delicious, and built to enjoy with friends and family. A King's Hawaiian Slider Sundae, the only way to enjoy Sunday. Go to the bakery or deli section of your local store and pick up King's Hawaiian and enjoy.
Days get shorter, temperatures get colder. Be prepared with a stop at your local Napa Auto Parts. Snow, ice, and cold weather are all hard on wiper blades. Napa features long-lasting silicone wiper blades from Rain-X and Trico. Stop in for a new set. They'll even help you install them. They'll also help you install a new battery if you need it. Pick up some house diesel treatment and get the case lot pricing, $12 for a half-gallon jug. Be prepared for cold weather and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
Fall is here. Winter is on the way. And while the fields may be quiet, the work never stops. Cash Equipment is your partner through every season, offering Kubota, AGCO, and Massey Ferguson machinery. Right now is the perfect time to service your equipment, and the expert service team at Cash Equipment is here to help. Whether you're maintaining land, handling livestock, or already preparing for spring, Cash Equipment is here all year to support you with reliable parts and equipment. In Hyde Park and online at cashequipment.com.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. KLGN Logan.